What's up, everybody? Mark with Kardavox Academy here. And I just got back from Utah. I just got back from that vocal study, and I'm too lazy to do the whole like reveal where we cut to the guest. So here's Ryan. What's up, man? How you doing?
What is up, Mark? Very, very excited to be here yet again. And we have video this time. Knock on wood.
I know.
I know. And yeah, excited to get into it.
Yeah, me too. Because it's been, what, a year and a half since we
like that. It's been a little while. Things have changed a little. So
and not to mention in that I feel like in that brief amount of time, Larcenia Row has really skyrocketed in popularity and optics. I feel like it was literally just a little while ago that it was like this new band Larcenia Row on the scene, and people were like, oh, check these guys out, and it was like new band streams. And then like I blinked and it was like, oh, these guys are going on like tour now, and oh, these guys are on a label now, and oh, these guys are like pulling pretty good numbers now. So congrats on that. How's that feel, man?
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a lot of baby steps. We all work jobs, we all have our lives and mortgages and stuff like that. So doing it in the right steps, obviously signing with unique leaders, really made a big difference in giving us some more reach. We still have a long way to go, but it's been, our building the brand has been, something that we've been focusing on. And we're super, super appreciative of, opportunities like this that help us grow. And yeah, it's been, I couldn't ask for more.
Well, it helps this channel grow too. So it's mutually beneficial. So thanks to you as well. So yeah, and we can't get super into, I'm sure we will get a little bit into it today, but
we'll get into it.
You're also now doing vocals for Synestia.
Yep.
And that's full time. Like you're the guy now, is that right?
Yeah. So, I had the amazing opportunity. We were actually on tour with Crown Magnetar this winter. And I was talking to Sam from Synestia. I was recommended from Blake from Disembodied Tyrant.
Nice.
As they're, very, very close. And so when I got back, I did some quick audition. And next thing you know, within like 3 weeks, we have a song done. Blake helped mix and produce it as well. And yeah, it moved really fast. Sam and I just worked very well together, like instantly just worked.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to repackage a little bit, formulate the full band, and kind of take the next step as well from becoming, the online band to being the touring band, or a band you can actually go and see with your own eyes. And it's hard. The music is not easy, but it's a beautiful balance for me as a vocalist to stay challenged, but also I have Larcenia Row, which we can get fun, little weird, and then Synestia is a little bit more like, this is like a movie, this is a cinema.
Yeah.
We gotta lock it in and put together these songs that are gonna be, wowing people every time I listen to them. So it's a privilege, and I've been loving it so far.
Yeah, it's nuts, and they're like we were talking about. You play like two very different characters, two very different voices in each band. But let's go ahead. Let's focus on Larcenia Row, because that's what we're here. That's what we're here to talk about. And I'm pumped. I'm pumped to hear where you're at now. I'll ask you the same question I ask everybody, because I'm sure that some people are still unaware that Larcenia is a very lore heavy band. There's some story, and the same is true with Kardashev as well, and a lot of people don't know that. So this release, right, we're basically shoving it in people's faces. We're like, there's lore, of course
here, yes. No Final Fantasy though. There's nothing to do with Final Fantasy at all.
I still no
relation.
I think that's a magazine. I still don't know what's going on.
Right, we don't know what that is.
Well, I don't know what that is. But do you want to give me any insight into this video before we hop in? Little lore drops to keep the crowd interested.
I'll just say, our debut EP, there was a big marketing kind of birth that came out of that when it comes to, making the world smile. Mm-hmm. And when you hear a deathcore band tell you that, it's kind of uneasy.
Yeah.
So we got you to smile, I think. So now it's time to kind of bring the next stage of what we're going to do with it. So that's kind of kind of what this new album is leaning towards. We'd never like to give clear answers because we want everyone to make their own answer out of it. We're just kind of giving you some weird shit to look at, and hopefully you can take it a certain way. We do have a little bit of an idea behind everything we do. It's usually always planned out months ahead.
Sure.
So, you'll see a little bit in this video, a lot of things that make no sense and some small things that I could break down and kind of make a little bit of, make some dollars out of those cents, you could say.
Well, yeah. All right, let's, and because I'm familiar with your music, I'm going to first and foremost banish the evil spirits here. I've started. This actually happened. This started on Kardavox Academy as a little bit of a gag. I just did it. I had incense nearby, and so I did it offhand. And now whenever I do a video, I keep it nearby because you never know. Hey. It's like the sword, man. It's like the sword.
Yep. Better safe than sorry.
Better safe than sorry. All right. So, and I like to try to get it like underneath the camera so you see like the smoke. A little bit of... Doesn't always work, but it's cool when it does. All right. So let's go ahead and let's do this. Larcenia Row. Larcenia Row. Larcenia Row. I don't know why I said Larcenia Road. I don't even say my own band name Kardashev right half the time.
I know. I don't even know what we
who knows? Carolina crowd killer. No hard cuts because I'm lazy today. Unless you don't hear this audio, then we'll have a hard cut. Here we go. Good on the audio?
Yeah, I'll start now with it.
Nice. All right, so we're gonna start off. I'm gonna ask you a question. Because everybody has haters, right? We all do. I do. Everybody does.
Of course.
What are some and so far I'm gonna tell you the truth. I think this is awesome. I'm pretty into it. But I want to know, what do the people who don't like Larcenia Row say about your vocals? Because you definitely push some envelopes, man. What do they say?
Yeah, I think a lot of what I see, I read all the Reddit threads, and we get kind of roped into those quote unquote vocal Olympic bands.
Yes.
And that's fine. But the one difference that I always like to point out is we do write songs. Like a lot of the quote unquote vocal Olympic acts, you could say, don't really write songs. They just kind of do some cool tunnels. And I vibe with that sometimes, but
sure.
Our main mission is to just write a song and have the vocal be an instrument in it. So a lot of the times I get, he's trying too hard type thing, or, it's too vocal forward a lot. And we didn't want to change what we planned to do with our album, but it was something that I thought about. It's about writing a good song. And so that's something you'll find in this song is we try to do it tastefully with some of the fun, this little squirrely, squealy, fun sounds. But I'm big on just pushing tone on this album, really trying to the enunciations and the mouth movements and, you know, where I'm trying to take it, layering as well.
Sure.
I do produce. So trying to be delicate with certain layering and making it, instead of just doing like the standard, like you have a low and a high for like those big, you know, word moments, trying to blend them in so that it's a little bit smoother and cleaner, where when I perform live, it comes through pretty much the same way.
Interesting.
But anyway.
No, you know, that's kind of, so that leads me into my next question. Now, I do want to talk a lot of tone, and I do want to talk a lot of technique here in a bit, but I think the first thing I'm interested in is composition, because, you know, for anybody who's familiar with both of our bands, they will know that they are almost diametrically opposed. They're very different. Like, they're still in like the metal world where there are harsh vocals, but like, obviously you've got some experience under your belt, right? Obviously you've done this type of music for a while now, but if somebody gave me this instrumental to write vocals for, I'm not saying I couldn't do it. I could do it, but it would be a challenge. I would listen to it and I'd be like, no, here, start there. No. Okay, we got a 4 count. Okay, 1, 2. No. So what I'm kind of curious about is, because when you're talking vocal composition, you're not just talking about timing, you're talking about tone, you're talking about color and texture and flavor. And like, you, for example, you have these spots where you are so low, you're almost behind the mix. And then you have these other spots where you're doing like this, like, like really loud, really high, almost like, I think I saw, I can't talk about it, but I think I saw what those might look like in Utah. But how do you just, like, I guess this question is overly broad, but how do you decide what to do in like these crazy chaotic moments where the transitions are appropriately jarring? Like, they should be like pop, but because anyways, I'm going to shut up. How do you do it?
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're asking. For me, you know, Henry and I, we write all this together, and he kind of does the base level of what the instrumental work is going to sound like, and then I kind of rearrange, you know, cut, edit, you know, kind of fully put the composition together. And so when it comes to the push and pull of every section that you hear from us, the vocals are supposed to be placed so that it is kind of like, it's either based off of a cadence that's trying, you know, similar to rap, or it's going to be based off of accents most of the time. So you kind of have like a little bit of like a dancey rhythm to, you know, a lot of this song, and they're all kind of different forms of dancing in a sense. And so making punches, not to bring up Blake from Disembodied Tyrant, but, you know, I've been able to get to know him a little bit since we were able to work together, and he writes very similar to we write very similar together. Essentially, I will go through, and when I'm tracking vocals, I am just making some sounds real quick and just trying to punch some ideas in. And then we go back and we'll formulate what words should be there and then retrack. And when you do that, it becomes less about, I need to fit a bunch of lyrics inside of this song. It's less about the lyrics and more about kind of the instrumentation you're doing with your voice. So it's a lot of trying to find pockets of creating, you know, sub rhythms, or just trying to accent. And, you know, our instrumentals aren't that overcomplicated in Larcenia. We try to keep it pretty simple so that you can somehow find groove within this chaos. Because too many bands, they're noodling and doing all this crazy stuff with the blast beats, and just like, you can't settle with it. So part of our sound is finding a way to make it digestible while still being aggressive, in your face, intense. So yeah, a lot of it is so much trial and error. I will go through, you know, some songs will take me a day to write vocally and track and everything. Other songs will take me like 4 months, because I'm going to go back and redo ideas. A lot of times I write songs multiple times, and I'll be done and spend like a week on a song, and I'm like, no, screw it, restarting. And
interesting.
Interesting.
You know, I actually don't know how long it takes me, because the way that we write has always been so choppy. Like I'll do like all the melody writing and the pattern writing, and then I'll do the lyrics, and then like 3 weeks later I'm at Nico's house. Well, not anymore, he lives in Germany, but yeah, that's really interesting. And I think I really resonate to what you say about finding like the sub rhythms, like listening to the song and thinking if you had like a percussive like do, 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 that wouldn't oppose the song, that wouldn't get in the way of it. That's a big part of I think kind of understanding as a vocalist where you fall, you know what I mean? Because there are a lot of people who they just kind of scream over top the music, which like
right.
I'm kind of at this point where I think anything's cool, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah, right,
it's like
right.
it's like if you're doing what you want, hell yeah, man. But this very much sounds more intentional. So I think it's cool that you found that middle ground. Let's keep going, and then let's talk tone, let's talk technique, let's talk sensation on all that.
Let's do it.
What's this little annotate? No, I don't want to do that. All right, I'm hitting play. I'm going to pause it there because I don't know if there's going to be a good place to pause for the rest of the song. I have one question before we hop into it. There are some spots where I couldn't tell, and I think this is kind of cool. I couldn't tell if you were in the background doing like these really distinct panning like,
yes,
or if that was like bass clacking.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you could wheel it back to that section, the whole thing. It's the swing. And I just did like this little, it's like a little poppy pig squeal thing. And I want to use that as an accent, almost like you would with like a DJ sample. So
that's a good idea.
Oh, we.
Yeah.
Again, it's using the voice as an instrument rather than just trying to do that. So it was a fun little thing that I thought was a cool idea, and it, mixing it was kind of interesting because I didn't want it to sound cheesy. But I blended it in. Obviously, when I mixed the bass as well, the bass tone is very intentional for this song and this whole new album. Drum tone, snare, it's like everything is extremely intentional. I spent too much time on it. So please, if you hate it, just say it, just get it done with. But if you do like it, it makes me feel really good because I have no idea what I'm doing half the time. It's all learning experience. But the bass tone, it just, for some reason, it just created a cool vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the comments, if you hate it or if you love it, you heard him. You can say it. No. So
just do it.
This is actually one of the things that I like about your vocals is like you just, not without intention. There's always intention, but you just kind of do shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I can't think of anybody else who would be like, hey, now here's an idea. Echoey sample, kind of back and forth, sort of. You know what I mean? Right. I don't know anybody else. And then like the I don't know anybody else who would do that. So I think I told you this in our first video where I was like, I think you take your vocals and add like a little bit of like, this is kind of an overused term, but I think it's the best one now, like an avant-garde-esque-ness to it. Cause you're just like I don't imagine that you are often sitting there and you're thinking like, what does this genre do? You're more like, oh, I want to sound like a bullfrog here, and then you do, and like you somehow you make it work. You know what I mean? Let's listen to this one more time, and then we're going to talk to you, and we're going to talk about Dustin as well. We're going to talk about both. He's not here. He's not here to defend himself. Nah, I'm kidding. I only have good things to say. But all right, here we go. I think I backed it up far enough. Oh. Okay, I think that's. I didn't notice he's playing with that thing in his face, dude. That's sick.
Yeah. Henry always has a different headpiece on when we perform live and everything. He played the whole set. Not to jump, to anything different that you were gonna note, but the beginning, that headpiece that he was wearing, that big saw-looking metal contraption that was made from our friend Aaron. He actually does my tattoo work. Beautiful person, love him. He's a good friend of ours now. He built that from hand for him, and he actually wore it on stage. And it was so heavy that I looked at him after our set, and he looked like he was going to cry. Because it's just like, dude, I could barely move my head the whole night, but he did it. He'll do anything for us if we ask. So
devote. Well, you know what? We're gonna keep it on that frame while we talk then, just to just to honor his devotion to the craft. But I think so. The first thing I want to do, and maybe this is just because of how I've been thinking about vocals recently, is I'm kind of I remember from our last conversation, but for the viewers who maybe they didn't see our last conversation, one thing that's true of us vocalists who are on the more acrobatic side, because even though Kardavox is not a deathcore band, I do try to get kind of crazy here and there.
Doing a lot. You're doing a lot.
I try to get crazy. Many of us have like 2 or 3 tones that we then smush and shape and poke and prod to make into different sounds. So I want to start because for me, I'm always interested in people's mid. Right. And you've got like a really solid mid roar going on. Right. You've got this very big, very, very, rounded. There's like a nice even distribution of frequencies, high, mid, and low. And of course, there's some EQ, there's some everything. But you can always hear, like, sometimes people are like, oh, it's impossible. No, like you overestimate what an EQ can do. You can hear that organically. It's a very strong and powerful mid. So I kind of want to leave it open to you a little bit. Like, talk to me about that big, huge mid tone that you have.
Yeah. So for me, we've discussed this. I kind of have a very airy approach to like all my vocals. It's almost like the air comes first and then the tone comes under. So when it comes to a mid, when you're doing deathcore, you have to find a way to make it sound cool. And so the tongue, the mouth, it's there's a big kind of range that I can do with it. There's probably like 3, you have your cookie monster, tongue up. You have your tunnel, it's just regular bass. You have your bark, comes through easy. But then I like to kind of find ways of opening room and expanding. You can add your tunnel in there, but kind of opening your cheeks differently. So I kind of do this. I kind of got inspired by Will Ramos on this. Kind of does like this. Wow. He does a lot of that pull. Wow. Yeah. And so that's something that I'll add in. You'll hear it in this song quite a bit, but it's and it kind of opens up and kind of has a cool pull, kind of sounds funky. But it's a way of kind of, you can change the landscape of what your voice is doing, while staying, I'm generally staying in the same range. Like I'm not really doing anything different on the back end. All feels the same. So when it comes to, my mids, obviously the highs poke, the lows, get the death metal guys excited that want to talk crap about your band. Because you have to have cool lows, right? You have to, you don't have a choice. But the mids are where I'm actually way more comfortable. And that a lot of that comes back from, my love for metalcore. My love for, sense. Hardcore. I've never really had that cool false chord bark. But think since we've talked, I think I've been pushing learning the false chord route a little bit heavier, especially going into lows. So just trying to get my natural voice into it a little bit more. But again, I think we discussed, I kind of have this weird hybrid. And being able to kind of balance in between, trying to get multiple sounds, your air and your body at the same time is something I'm always trying to do. And when I'm at the grocery store, people are like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? Because I'm just doing a bunch of weird face expressions and trying to do different, like you can feel it without really projecting too hard. Like vocals I just did, that was probably like 40% projection, right? Like it's just comfortable. And it's been a long time of being able to do it now, to have that type of control. But just finding the sweet spot and then doing all the fun stuff here to get a total different sound.
Yeah, I can relate to the grocery store thing. I think for a lot of us, I've kind of got it under control now, but I think for a lot of us, we do it without realizing it. Like I was on the plane flying back, and I got somebody like looking over their shoulder at me, and I didn't even realize, but I was kind of doing like this thing, like really just really quietly, just I don't know, it's like a little tick or something. I'm curious, what would one of your lows sound like if you didn't do any sort of like shaping in the front? Like, because one thing I talk to all my students about is how like it's totally okay if your bass tone with no modulation, no effect doesn't sound very cool. Because for me, like, I use my mids a lot of the time, like this, and like, is it the best mid in the world? No, but it's helped me build a career, so it's worth something, right?
It's doing it, man.
But if I just like nothing, like it's really not that impressive. It's just so, and it's just like my goal with that has been to make it like a slightly chunkier TV static. That's kind of how I've tried to shape it over time. So what would yours sound like if you just let your jaw hang and just did like that same 40? You may have to lean a little bit more since there's no like semi-occlusion from the articulators, but like, what would it sound like?
Okay, so
try to similarly, it's just kind of like this even static. And I think for anybody watching, that's a really valuable tool. Like part of the reason, and you can tell me if you disagree or agree with this, but I think part of the reason you're so acrobatic is because you have a really steady, really predictable mid-tone. Like, and when I say predictable, I mean like you can make that tone, how it's going to feel, how it's going to sound. There's not any sort of question. Well, in that case, I want to talk to you. We're gonna get to Dustin here in a second because I actually have some questions. But I want to talk to you about those really like yucky highs, like those really like it sounds like if you were to like move your boot in and out of mud, but take all the low end off of it. So it's just like this, what I mean? It might just be the production, but it sounds like a little bit more wet than previously. Have you worked to make that sludginess more sludgy?
Yeah. So,
hell yeah.
And usually most of my highs, I don't do like any layering. It's usually one stem.
Really? Whoa.
Yeah. Most of the time. I mean, I'll do, depending on the part.
Yeah.
But I just find it comes through cooler. And a little dirtier sounding. When you put like too much behind it, it like solidifies all the weird poppy gross cool things that are going on.
That's true. I see that.
But a lot of it, tongue placement, obviously, there's no secret that like a tunnel in that form is going to make a big difference. But there is a significance in what my throat is doing from a feel perspective, and very comfortable, doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And feels, good. I can do it. When I finish my set, my voice is just like this. Which, thank goodness, because it wasn't that way for some time. But I finally found a cool little balance. But a lot of the things that people got excited for in our debut EP Dereliction was the cool kind of just like spittiness that I would have.
Yep.
Whether it was, Alienation or Precursor. I don't know if that's a song you've heard, but it's kind of like a little bit of like a poppier song with cool chorus similar to this, with some cool, chunky, stuff. But my opening vocal line for the verse is my favorite to do live because it's all of like, I'm moving your arms all the time. But I'm doing it with a high.
Sure.
So it's like, and that type of like movement, like I'm doing kind of like doing like these little like pushes, where I do the cool that type of fun stuff, and that can be punctual, and it's kind of blending those in where you're kind of like getting saliva in your mouth a little bit. I think I've almost developed the skill of building saliva with certain sounds. It's kind of weird. Like it's like I can feel it come up when I'm about to do something, or I've just been able to kind of wield the saliva my my mouth makes. Maybe that's probably. I don't think I've developed some weird X-Men skill, but
no. I think this is something that I think that especially after like because what like saliva filled vocals have been around, but I really think that when Lorna Shore released To the Hellfire and there was just that isolated like it sounded like he was doing high vocals while chewing on Starburst, you know what I mean? Right, it was like I think that a lot of I suspect that people are learning how to somehow harness the saliva to get like these, because especially if we want to talk about like saliva vocals, people should go check out the song you did for Synestia, Deus Irae. I don't know how to say it. But like
I barely know how to say it. I think it's DS Array. I don't know. I didn't name the song. Sam did, and the first like few days I was calling it Dies Array, and then he said it. I was like, oh crap. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Dude,
so yeah, DS.
It's when you said it, it made me. So you said DS Array, and I was like, well, that sounds like a Canadian production guy being like, oh, we need a DS Array. We got to put a DS Array on these vocals. So like, do you feel? Let me ask you this, and then we'll get back to it. See, you super acrobatic deathcore vocals, you always get me the comments of these videos are too long because you're doing like so many things I want to talk about, but I don't care. I like the long videos. I like digging into it. So do you feel like you are controlling that wetness primarily with the saliva, or do you feel like you're using articulators as well? Because for me, I do have vocals where I get like a big buildup of saliva, but I never have felt like that's a tool that I use, which is a really cool idea. For me, I'm doing it mostly with like I do this like sort of crow sound like this. But if I take the vocals out, like the true chord phonation out of it, and I kind of push on it like a false chord. Is it more saliva, more articulator, or kind of both?
It's definitely both. It's definitely both. And sometimes it's actually like a looseness in the cheeks as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like when I push, like sometimes it'll create this weird little, I don't know, this weird little like flubber where I think I'm getting like quite a bit of push out the back of my throat coming forward, and it like kind of like rebounds a little bit. And then I'm also big on using your head to make sounds as well. you may only have one hand, but you know, like I'll poke my cheek on stage. I know you've always talked about the whole pull. I haven't done the pull yet.
You gotta do the pull, bro.
I know. I haven't done it yet. But the head shaking is something I do a lot.
Oh yeah.
You know, when you do that with a, it creates a super cool effect that just sounds dirty. You have to find a way, because you have guys like David Samach from Signs that are like. He's so wet. Everything he does. And
I know.
I love listening to his voice. And I'll do days where I try to just do some vocal practice and try to create those sounds.
Yeah, dude.
Now, you know, I've seen a lot of vocalists when they track, they'll find other ways of getting that sound. By, you know, they take their mic and they're doing this.
What the hell?
Yeah. And it creates a whole different, creates an extra tunnel. It elongates it. So now it's almost coming through a different chamber.
Interesting.
You know, some of your favorite vocalists do that, and they probably don't want to show it. But it's something I've learned.
Show it.
Show it.
You know what I mean?
Mitch used to do his vocals like this. And he used to track about this far away from his microphone, and his lows were basically this. And that's why it has that muffled sound, just from the videos I've watched of him tracking. Because
interesting.
Obviously, I spend a lot of time researching that stuff. And so, you know, when it comes to production, at the end of the day, do what sounds best. So, you know, the vocalists that do that, keep doing it. I try not to, just for clarity purposes, but I'm definitely not afraid to get a little weird.
No, you're not.
You know,
you're not.
the Dickie Allens, you know, like you do. Obviously, I just saw your video last week, and you know, I've seen some stuff from him in the past. You know, closing his nose, whatever it may be. You know, doing things like that. Screaming with your mouth shut. Yeah. Is, you know, it's one of the coolest sounds that I wish I was better at. Will is really good at that with his like guttural, but his mouth is so shut that it just sounds like he's chewing you alive.
Yeah,
you know? And those sounds are the ones that I'm like, dang, man, I wish I could have that effectiveness. Yeah. But in my adventure of trying to find those, I end up finding something else weird that I'll do. So.
Sure, dude. There are whole sections of our upcoming album coming out eventually. Still not what I say. But we just released a single, so it's obviously soon. Right. Where I do like whole sections where I do my lows like because I want that extra and then you've got what sounds like a already like EQ'd modified signal going in. And then you could that's just extra that you can do with it. Cool. All right. We got more song to listen to. Does Dustin come back, or does he?
He does. So he does his verse. He goes back and forth with me in the chorus. And then he has like one line towards the end of the song. But definitely I have some insight on some of what he does. I got to film the music video with him, so I actually heard him doing his stuff, and it's actually really cool what I was able to see. So
well, let's go back then, because I want his voice to be kind of fresh. We don't have to be like perfectly right when he starts, but let's go back. I don't know, here-ish, because it's always the commentary is always better when the listener is like they've got that echo of the recent sound in their head. So we'll go back a little bit, give him some. Well, that's cool album art. Get out of here. All right, here we go. Okay, so that's a good spot. So I'll let you start. You said you have some interesting insights. You were there when he when he tracked it, or just for the music?
No, just we were, I got to see him perform live in Greensboro. They were touring with the Browning. Got to say hey to Hardcore Keem. That was cool.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Great dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, we met up and filmed all of our parts together after he performed. And one, amazing live. That band just kills. We're both from Carolina. That's kind of why that connection happened.
Nice.
And so, I got to hear him just obviously he had to refresh himself on the lyrics. Because it had been some time. And so we're going over it, and I'm just his ability to just like push, almost like what you do when you pull the cheeks down, his ability to kind of push, but also like in similar sense to myself, almost becomes a character when he does his vocals.
Interesting.
Like he has a really big, like, he just knows how to bend his lows and his mids, and his voice is so powerful that, when I just heard him kind of just messing with it, it's like I could hear the tone without him really even pushing at all, which was really cool. And then obviously I got to mix his vocals, and man, when you hear that high, I was gonna ask about that. It pops, man. It pops. And when I got the stems, I'm like, holy crap, dude. Like, all right. That's why I honestly, I probably should have ducked it down a little bit because it pops through the mix. But dude, when I heard it back again, I'm like, I want this part. I want that high to kind of like make you, kind of jolt a little bit, because his highs are so nasty, man. He's probably, Filth in general, they write good music, right? And before, he was doing a lot more vocal Olympic type stuff in their previous work. They've been a band for like almost 10 years now. And their last, Southern Hostility, they kind of took a step back and kind of like, hey, let's write some good songs now. Let's put some kind of rap influence into it. And I wouldn't say that's an influence for us, but it's something we wanted to vibe with, and it fit this song so well. But he is incredible. His voice is very well ranged. Just like the bass of his voice, like you can hear his talking voice in his screams. The Gutter Gang, Larcenia Row, We Never Miss. That's just very natural for him. And he just has that nice, beautiful bark. To his voice, but his lows can go low. That long kind of first held out scream, that's him and I together.
Oh, nice.
But like is like it's just so clean. And when I was mixing it, I was like, this is sick. Like just such. I didn't have to do too much to really make it come to life. Like it was just there. Just powerful voice. You didn't see all these little kind of dips. I didn't need a ton of layers. It's just very. I actually think he may have sent multiple layers, but I think I may have only used one of them and then put mine behind it. Yeah, because it didn't need it. Like it was. And I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty certain there was certain parts where he just has a really powerful voice, and it was that high. I mean, the highs are just ridiculous.
Dude, that high. It literally sounds like somebody like dragging a knife through paper, just like this. Like sort of sound. Absolutely like literally shredded, as in like the sound of like shredding. And it's like this really interesting tone that is it almost doesn't sound distorted. Like we know it is because we can hear it, but at the same time, like when we think distortion, we think, these very noticeable beats, or very like with the false chord bark, the one that you kind of mentioned at the beginning. It's the best example of this because it's so chunky. It's like and you hear all those like little, but then like this is not the same high that he does at all, but it's the closest I can approximate to it. But then you have like these sounds that are more like, which it's like, even that, like I have a little bit of that crackle, but with him, it's like, it's interesting to call a harsh vocal clean, but it's like so clean.
It's clean. It's clean. It's clean and powerful.
It's clean and powerful.
It's crazy.
And I like, one thing I'm also digging about his voice, I think you kind of mentioned to it, is like not direct. I'm not speaking directionally as in like vocal placement, more just like the way it sounds. But he's got like a lot of this punch down. Like a lot of his vocals right now, he's like, maybe it's that like shifting forward in the mouth that you talked about, but it's very much like it feels like he's very bop, 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 like, and I think his delivery is pretty good for this song. And you two
Definitely.
have enough similarities in your voice where you're blending together but still standing out. Did you do anything? Here's my last question for you, and then we'll move on. When you did any, I don't know why I'm like gesturing with like my little lighter. But did you do anything like mixing wise to sort of differentiate you, or were you more focused like whatever this vocal track needs to sit in the song nicely?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mix. I mean, like I've done work with your crew on the masterclass. I mix. I learned quite a bit from Diego with Oracle.
That guy's.
But I still
talented.
do things kind of in a kind of streamlined way that I'm comfortable with. Well, I definitely use a lot of the tips he actually discussed with me. But when it came to his vocals, I believe I may have just tossed him, like eventually just tossed him into my vocal chain. A lot of times I'll do them separately for some of it. And I think I may have had to make some EQ adjustments, or like a couple of his stems I pushed up into mine because it just made sense for some weird reason.
Sure.
It just sounded good. That's the only answer. It sounded good. But, he definitely has a little bit more body to his voice, where mine relies a little bit more on air. Like when you were doing your high, like I heard like that hiss coming through over the top. Yeah. And then you basically found that paper shred, and that's where you took it. His is just there. It's what it sounds like. It's just there. So when it comes to EQing, my highs, I still push, the higher frequencies on pretty much all vocals. I like vocals to be very crisp. But for the difference, it wasn't too much, but I think it balances enough where his body kind of worked with my little airy, nasally type of sound. So.
And it like you've already mentioned, it's a nice offset as well, that his, not a ton, at least in this song, but his especially his mids and lows, they have a little bit of that true chord phonation, that voiced aspect. Let's keep going. Let's keep going here. We're already at 48 minutes. So I'm probably going to let a little bit longer of a portion of it play.
Yep.
But I can't help it. There's a lot to talk about. What you gonna do? All right, here we go.
Trying to keep up.
All right, I know I said I'm gonna let it play longer, but classy. I hope, even if it wasn't, please just lie to me and tell me it was intentional, that you say try to keep up, and then the tempo. That is that is so sick that the little call out is actually related to what the music's going to do. That's cool, man.
Market it,
That's a cool. That is. I don't think I've heard anybody do that so directly. You know what I mean? Right. That is.
There's a big difference. I just saw it. Orion Reacts. He just did a video and he's like, man, like this just sounds like a little bit more matured of a sound. And so our whole thing is, you know, like that's like a marketing moment for me. Like, you know, hey, get the TikTok people going, get the crowd going. Like, oh, the two steppers. One of the biggest things I see in deathcore right now is all the classic guys like, oh, we're no longer in deathcore. We're in post deathcore now. Larcenia Row's post deathcore. Like, okay, buddy. Like whatever you want to classify us, don't care. But we wanted to bring two step back in a little bit because that's a major part of deathcore originally. That's a hardcore background in the cores.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We thought it was a good spot to do it, and you know, Henry came up, you know, with that idea of making it faster and faster. And I was like, all right, I got the words to say, you know, pretty easy. So
that is so sick. I'm going to let it keep going, but like I could not forget to point that out. But yeah, dude, you know, here's the thing, man. You don't have to think about marketing when you're writing your songs, but it does help.
It does,
but it does help. You know, a lot of my students, they'll be part of the reason they're taking lessons because they want to start a musical career, and they'll tell me, they're like, yeah, I'm not going to get into any of that marketing stuff. And I tell them, like, that's awesome. That's great. But like right now, ask yourself, do you want this to be a hobby or a career? And then, but any answer you give yourself is a good one. There's no wrong answer. But like, if you literally want to do like no marketing, if you're not going to write songs and at least sometimes think about TikTok, sometimes think about reels.
Right.
You know,
right. Exactly. Yep.
It's work. It's still work, you know?
It is.
Let's keep going. There we go. I'm going to let it play. I'm not going to do it.
Very good.
Oh, so I lost track of where we were in the song. And I was like, yeah. I always.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it this time. What is this? Oh, Behemoth. But it was just the end. So I'm glad I let that play. There were a couple spots where I wanted to pause, but I was like, no. I think I'm going to let it go. Yeah, you know, I think there are two things I want to talk about, and then I think that's all I'll have. But the first is, it's really just an observation. I don't know if there's a whole lot to say about it, but I'm not sure. It's not like it was both of you kind of going back and forth. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there were these high vocals, and instead of being like this static, like, you know, it was like, and I love that stuff when you can almost hear like intervals. Right. Obviously, like, I don't know if intervals, like in music theory, would be the right term, because like, can you have a fifth? Can you have a minor third if there's no pitch? I don't know. Like, maybe, right. I guess you could. I'm not. We'd have to ask. Get Adam Neely on the channel. That'd be sick. Yeah. That'd be sick. I doubt that would ever happen. He's way bigger than me. But I love when, you know, the same vocal has the same tone and texture, but what I will for now call pitch differences. And it really, like, and it's a smart thing to do, because honestly, like, when you have guitars that are doing a lot of what they were doing at the end, which not all the way through, but it's like,
right.
Like, maybe this is just because I'm a vocalist and this is why I think this, but I feel like vocalists often make or break those sections. They either make them really mean and dirty and interesting, or they like do the guitars a disservice. They don't do anything to like spice it up. So yeah, I think the carousel of stuff that y'all were doing was nuts. I want to ask you about that. Really, I think it's the only time you did it in the song that really pulled back. I'm not going to mimic it right now, of course, but like that really pulled back, like almost like type of sound, because that's a sound that I really like. It's croaky and muffled and gross, but still full. Talk to me about that sound.
Yeah, so that whole section, and you'll see kind of deeper this album that we're doing and putting out. It has a little bit of everything in it. You'll have, kind of a little bit more popular stuff, and then you'll have very slam forward stuff.
Sorry, I was trying to find a cool. We were just like sitting on the suggested, and I was like, we should have a cool image of him while this is going. So I didn't mean to actually play it. But anyways, go ahead. Whatever. I'm sorry, man.
But yeah, like slam is something I'm very inspired by. I'm actually learning how to do inhales these days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's talking about the grocery store. Wait, you don't want to be walking the aisle with me, man. You're like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? But but I do all exhales in this, other than sometimes I do some kind of like accent breaths that are inhaled. But going from that whole breakdown, creating some type of like cool guttural that has a little bit of a tunnel. Again, cheek work. That's what I would call it. And then a lot of it is trying to get that almost, if you took like a Ben Door type low and then try to like kind of box it in a little bit more, because I can't do Ben's lows, even though I try to. No one can. So you get a little bit more air over the top.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of those lows are just kind of closing your mouth a little bit more.
Yeah, that sound. Yep.
Like really trying to get that body coming through. And that's actually where I start to feel where I'm getting a little bit more tone from a little bit of a false chordy sense. Like I kind of push a little bit more. It's still Fry, I think. But when I'm starting to get that kind of that throat feel that I'm getting a little bit more coming from under it, almost like that, like Mongolian type feel.
Sure.
When I'm doing those. So yeah, that's just kind of a sound I make. It's my form of Cookie Monster in a sense. Sure. But yeah, I like to tastefully place them. And when we were writing that part, like Dustin's part, the like that, when I sent it to him, because I write all of our features and then send it to them, and then cool. I tell them to kind of do their own thing. Yeah, I've always done that. So every song that we have a feature on, and then sometimes they come back totally different. Usually they're freaking awesome. So we go with it and we make it work, but I may move and adjust some things. But a lot of it is just trying to find spots where there's a little bit of breathing room, and it's up to you to decide to put a cool sound in there or not. Is it the right time to do that, or do you want to leave it empty to create, something heavier on the back end, or do you want to fill it in? So you have that in there. You have that high where it's like really coming through. Just tossing it in there. I have to do those highs in there because it's just the easiest option.
Listen, I'm all about the easiest option. Everybody knows that I'm kind of like a path of least resistance vocalist. Right. I call it lazy, but that's me. Right. I'm a kind of a lazy vocalist. This
was definitely a song where it's not really that vocally challenging for me.
Sure.
Other than that last long note, man, we played this song, was it last weekend or the weekend before? We were down in Florida and Atlanta, and we played those songs for the first time, or this song for the first time. And man, in practice, I can hold that low, the very last held out low, really easily. But man, am I starting to see some stars when we play it live, because I'm moving, got everything going. It's like almost done with the set, and we're like, But yeah. Anyway.
Well, that sounds sick, man. I think this is a great song. You know, I think that it's smart that you kind of played it close to the chest, especially because now, you know, I don't think this is like a huge deal, but you know, if I, as somebody who has been in multiple bands before, though both were never as active as Synestia and Larcenia Row are, I always wanted to find ways to, like, I didn't care if people could tell it was me, but I was like, I don't want to be Kardashev Mark in Never Breath. I don't want to be Kardashev Mark in Viremia. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I think playing it close to the chest here, especially with such a close release of the Synestia track, I think it was a smart move, right? But that's basically all I got, man. I think this is a solid track. We just hit an hour, which is usually when we got to wrap it up anyway. But we can talk a lot more, and we'll see. It'd be cool to talk about the Synestia track. But any parting words? Anything that you want to let people know, or stuff you want to plug here for the video before we wrap it up?
Yeah. So you know, Carolina Crowd Killer just came out featuring Dustin from Filth. Definitely go stream that, watch our video. I helped produce this video with our buddy Garrett Barefoot, who directed it. He's an absolute cold killer, man. So we had so much fun on this shoot, just doing weird stuff. Sure. May 16th, our album Extraction comes out. Yo. So we did announce that. That's our first official LP.
Nice.
So we're very excited. There's going to be a ton of different fun twists to it. Songs are a little bit all over the place. When it comes to, we're not just sticking to the same box. We're expanding and trying new things, but it's going to be heavy, very, very heavy. I've done new things on this. Nice. And then we do have a new, when do you think this will drop?
I'm going to try to drop this on Sunday. It's what is it? It's Thursday now. These co-reactions are sometimes some pretty beefy edits. So I'm going to shoot for Sunday. We'll see. But chances are high.
This month we have another single dropping. I'll just say that this month we do. No one knows that until now. So but that one will be very fun if you wanted a little bit more slammy, squirrely stuff. And
sure.
It's gonna be a video too. It's it'll be interesting. So
hell yeah.
Man, Mark, I appreciate you as always. And anytime you need me on or want to get me involved, you know how to reach me. So
hell yeah, dude. Yeah, I appreciate you being here, man. It's been far too long, and it's fun seeing where you guys are going. I'm really glad that like you're taking your voice and pushing it and making things happen with it. It's very cool. But yeah, super sick song, Carolina Crowd Killer. Thank you all so much for watching. I was gonna say I'm too lazy to do my plugs, but you're supposed to do them. If you like vocal education, this is the channel for it. Nah, I'm over it. Many thanks. Much love. I'm out. Dude, I just couldn't bring myself to be like, buy my course. You know, like I should. It's smart.